All those QBs good at saying something but not really saying much of anything. So the question is, if the Broncos lose, should Manning retire, Freddie?
He's going to, but maybe I'm being too selfish for my own good. I don't think he should. I want to see him do it one more time. I mean, I'm not hoping that they lose, so he'll try to come back and try to right that wrong. But there's certain people that I miss playing in sports, even at the point that we've seen Peyton Manning look like an old Peyton Manning, not the old Peyton Manning. I still miss Magic Johnson, Larry Bird playing basketball. I still miss those guys at the height of their powers. And I know we're never going to see that Peyton Manning again. But from a selfish standpoint, I don't think he should, because I still believe that fire is going to be there with him. I don't think he enjoys the fact that 9 touchdowns, 17 interceptions was part of his year before he got back after being injured. And he's been okay. He hasn't been great, but you know what? He hasn't cost the Denver Broncos any games. He's been able to be that game manager that I thought we would never, ever hear with Peyton Manning's name. If you said Peyton, game manager Manning, at that point you'd have thought that the world would have ended and dogs and mailmen had united all over the country by hearing that kind of term. So from a selfish standpoint, and I'm just speaking for me, I just enjoy seeing him going out there and compete. I enjoy seeing him coming back for his team, wanting to be there with his teammates, to try to get that final shot at that ring, to try to lead this organization to do what they did, what John Elway did, where he was a game manager at the end of his career with Terrell Davis in the backfield at running back. So from a selfish standpoint, I know it doesn't make sense. I don't care, because this is how I feel.
That's all right. Sports isn't meant to.
I know he's going to
make sense.
retire. It's his final year. It's his final game on Sunday. But for a selfish reason, I want to see him come back one more time. I hope he doesn't do it. I don't think he should do it, because I still believe that fire is still there in him to want to go out there and play, no matter how long it is.
George?
I mean, that fire could be burning all at once, but that thing is reducing. The flame is getting smaller and smaller, because physically he's just not able to do what he once did. You look at his stats this year: 9 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. Look at some of the other great quarterbacks that played into around that same age. A Dan Marino, a Brett Favre. Those last years were just as ugly as Peyton's was this particular season. So there comes a time with all of us, regardless of whether we're athletes or not, where your mind says, yeah, I can do this, and your body's like, oh, hell no, that's not happening. And we've gotten to that point with Peyton Manning. So we're at a point where Peyton Manning has become a game manager. And I know people look at that as a negative connotation, but for whatever it's worth, it's helping them win games, because their defense is hellacious. Their defense is one of the best defenses we've seen in the National Football League. I've had this conversation with numerous guys this week on the radio show, and they're putting it in the top 5, 10 category as far as all-time defenses are concerned. So you look at them carrying Peyton, it's not the Peyton we're used to seeing. So because of that, I want him to go. I want to remember Peyton Manning fondly, the guy who's throwing 50 touchdowns all over the field, not this guy who looks wounded out there.
Yeah. Well, Freddie mentions like the height of athletes' power and how we miss seeing them in those moments, and we certainly do. When I think of, you mentioned Larry Bird or Magic Johnson, I'm picturing them in their heyday, not in some of the later moments of their career, which is where we are completely with Peyton Manning. And the thing is that this year in the Super Bowl, he will have had the worst regular season of any QB ever who eventually gets into a Super Bowl. I don't think that's the kind of legacy he wants to leave, and he has a chance now to go out on top, whether they win or lose. I think he's in a place now where a lot of people never thought he would be able to finish his career. If you asked me 2 or 3 years ago, how would Peyton Manning go out? It looked pretty likely like he was going to go out early playoff game with like 3 interceptions. And now he's here at the Super Bowl. So for him to come back next year feels to me like a lot like if you're riding a blackjack streak and you've won a bunch of hands in a row and you have all these chips and you're going to put him down on another hand. That's what that feels like. If I'm him, I'm like, win or lose, this is a lot better than I thought it was going to be, and I'm going to walk away.
Kate, forget about just a couple of years ago. How about 4 or 5 weeks ago?
Right.
You would have never, none of us would have thought they would be here in this particular situation. And the reality is the injuries are mounting up, and the biggest predictor of injuries moving forward is injuries from the recent past. So this isn't going to get better for him. He's not going to get more healthy at 40 years old.
Do you think he could withstand not being a starting QB, a backup guy somewhere?
No. He doesn't want to do that. And
No way.
the Denver Broncos, they've made their decision in terms of the perception that no matter what happens, if he decides to come back, Brock Osweiler is going to be the quarterback of this football team, because that's the kind of quarterback that Gary Kubiak wants in his system, an athletic guy who can run the stretch play, who can have that kind of threat on the corner where you can do the bootlegs and throw the ball across the field. I completely get all of that. And believe me, his legacy is not going to be tarnished with me no matter what happens on Sunday, because you're going to have in your mind about Peyton Manning whatever it's going to be. If you feel, people all talk about the playoff record, but you look at his numbers compared to Tom Brady, his numbers are more than comparable in terms of not record, but in terms of touchdowns, interceptions, completions. And by the way, he's beaten Tom Brady in the last 3 championship games in the AFC. Once with the Indianapolis Colts and 2 with the Denver Broncos. Yeah, game manager with the Denver Broncos against the New England Patriots about a week and a half ago, but still, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, and they've been able to keep him clean. That kind of motivation for Denver will be very, very significant. They're going to try to pull the upset on Carolina.
We also do this thing where we ascribe greatness only to our athletes who win in the big games, despite the fact that we know, statistically speaking, especially in the NFL and even at the QB position, that single players are not influencing the game to such a degree as to be solely responsible for winning a championship. And yet we do this thing with Peyton Manning. We've done it where because he's lost 2 Super Bowls and Tom Brady has 1 more Super Bowls, therefore the legacies are different. But when you look at Peyton Manning, and I think Bill Barnwell had a great piece on this, he completely revolutionized the NFL. The number of percentages of snaps that are in shotgun now is just completely different than it was when he came into the league in the late 90s. So his impact, regardless of winning the title, is cemented.
You know what's going to be really crucial for him when he steps on that field is to take a handle of his nerves. Because if you think about it, if you're going out, if you came out here and knew that this was going to be the last show of your entire life, how nervous would you be? And you don't want to come out there blazing, and you just got to make sure you take a handle of those nerves.
With him, I don't think that's going to be the issue. It's a fair point in terms of everything that he has talked about, or tried not to talk about, because anytime they throw in that final game question at him, boy, he's been dancing around and trying to deflect everything. He looks like something out of a video, put it that way, so you think you can dance. That's what he's been basically able to do by saying, but not saying the thing that we know is going to happen, that once this game is over, to George's point, the case point, his body can't take it anymore. There's no way that Peyton Manning wants to be out there like that, but that fire, if they lose, it would not surprise if he changed his mind and decides to come back 1 more year.
And the one thing that I'm looking for is we've talked throughout Peyton's career is he is the ultimate adjuster, especially at the line of scrimmage. We've given him so much credit for being able to read and react and change and adjust. So can he apply that internally to himself? We think that he wants to try and be this certain QB. Will he be able to, on Super Bowl Sunday, adjust for the final time in the most ultimate way by game management without interceptions and allowing his defense to win this game?
Especially against the Panthers defense that ranked top 5 in the league last season.
Well, let's look back. I think he can do that. If you look at the championship that they won against the Chicago Bears, and that entire run, Peyton didn't have a very good run in that particular postseason. True. He's had better runs, and they've lost before as far as his statistics are concerned. And they relied a lot on Adai and Dominic Rhodes in that particular run with the Indianapolis Colts. So he's got an opportunity where he can say to himself, I can lean back on what I did back then and apply it now.
And the Colts had a great defense that year, too. They won a Super Bowl. Bob Sanders, Defensive Player of the Year that year.
They did. Now, on the other side of the ball, the reception has been different for